This is Second Down on ESPN Radio, presented to you by the Uniform Source. 2 different locations in Savannah to take care of all of your uniform needs. Got a whole lot of college football to get to today. We're going to talk some Georgia football coming up in the next segment. And then, guys, cue the piano music, because we are just 50 days away from the Masters.
There you go.
Hearing Jim Nantz say, "Hello, friends." Just seeing the scenic views of Amen Corner.
Ooh. Can't wait for it.
And hopefully those fellas are there playing in Augusta and not some tournament in Saudi Arabia. But we'll have to wait and find out.
Right.
But it gives us 50 days of something to talk about. But we're 50 days away from Augusta.
See, I mean that's my thing, right? And that's the sad part of this is can't wait for that. It's going to be quite the weekend because it's going to be quite the event. But
PJ,
no, that's the thing is we're looking
$5.
We're looking. Hold on.
No, $5.
Just
$5.
Can I make my point?
All right, go ahead.
We're talking about 50 days away. We should be talking about baseball, but we're not.
What's that?
Exactly.
College baseball? I think Georgia's a couple days away from kicking things off at Foley Field.
To Mr. Manfred, I don't think he knows
Who?
if baseball is a thing.
Who?
That Manfred guy.
Hunk of metal guy?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Anyway, no.
$5
Lunch. No, lunch. I'll say lunch to
That's
whoever
more than $5.
whoever tells me. Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you go. Whoever tells me who won the Masters last year.
Oh, I don't know. If it wasn't Jordan Spieth, I'm not sure.
Is it Bryson DeChambeau?
Bryson DeChambeau has not won the Masters. He won the U.S. Open last year. It was Hideki Matsuyama won.
Of course,
Well, I'm not
yes.
getting no
won the
name.
Masters last year, but no, it's just
He
'cause
goes by
I-
Jordan Spieth
No,
sometimes.
no, I don't think he does at all. I think those are 2 different people. No, the only reason I asked is because PJ's like, yeah, it's gonna be a great weekend. Really looking forward to it. Love it. Every year comes around. Beautiful, great weekend.
I did watch it.
Big weekend for you.
Oh, absolutely.
This
I
weekend?
can't wait for the
Cam, could you tell me?
genuinely,
Can
I
you tell
can't
me why
wait.
this is a big weekend for PJ? I love
No.
how disconnected we all are.
No, I really don't know why it's a big weekend. I really don't. I
The
don't know why.
Daytona 500.
Let's go. You have to say it like that too.
You can't say the Daytona 500.
No, that's not how this works.
It's the Daytona 500.
That's it.
I didn't know.
The 100.
I didn't know. Because
Who's your favorite this year?
Me every year because I can't wait. No,
Fair.
it's hard to. I don't know. I don't know the odds like what Vegas is putting out there. I'm not sure. So I haven't seen that yet. But it restrictor plate races can be such a crapshoot that like I don't know. If I had to put money on it, if I had to guess, they'd probably put Denny Hamlin because Denny Hamlin's been so good at Daytona,
Okay.
especially over the last 5 or 6 years. Has won now I believe 3 Daytona 500s in the past 5 years or so. So he's extremely good, especially at Daytona. There's several other guys that are very good at restrictor plate races that are up there too. Michael McDowell won it last year and was a surprise victory there after a crash on the last lap. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the most exciting parts about the sport, about the restrictor plate races. And oh, by the way, there's a whole brand new car as well that they're bringing. So it's so almost impossible to pick that when the favorite wins, that's one of the most surprising things. So can't wait for it.
When's Green, White, and Checkered coming back?
This Sunday, 9:00.
There we go.
Yeah.
Following the back 9, boys.
9:00 to 9:30.
Right here on ESPN Radio, here in PJ break down the Daytona 500. I got some Negan vibes going on today.
Yeah, I
just-
feel that.
Just holding a baseball bat
See, what my problem is,
while I'm talking to everybody.
I'm still.
spoiler alert, by the way, for anyone who hasn't seen the show, tune off now and then come back in about 30 seconds. I'm kind of
Wait, give him a chance. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not a great fan of you having that bat and having those vibes because Glenn's my favorite character on that show.
Okay, is it still a spoiler alert if it happened like 6 years ago?
I don't know. I needed to put that there because if I didn't, guess what would happen? Oh, why didn't you give him a spoiler alert? So no, but yeah,
Like,
Glenn-
you guys want me to tell you what happens at the end of the latest James Bond? Because that's
Glenn's
been
my
out for a while
favorite.
now, too.
my favorite character, and
haven't
I
seen
still
James
haven't
Bond
fully
movie in a
recovered to
while.
what happened.
Cam, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I was thinking like I'm not in full-fledged baseball nor NASCAR. It's NBA All-Star Weekend. Of course.
That's true.
I have-
Okay,
See, the
I'm locked
only thing,
in.
the only thing I've really seen from that is James Harden got picked last.
and he's not playing.
That was yeah. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not playing on purpose though.
Right.
Is he
on
not
purpose.
playing because he got picked last?
No, he's not playing because he
Probably.
doesn't. he doesn't want to do that. Like he has to deal with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and all the talk. So nah, he's not playing. And he shouldn't have been picked last.
I
but they did
do.
on
I do love the NBA for the simple fact that it has become more about the off the court stuff than the on the court stuff. Like it's much more interesting
It's
off
weird.
the court. Like what's the most interesting storyline on the court this year? Maybe DeMar DeRozan and like how good he's been,
Him or the Phoenix Suns,
or just like the calamity that is the Lakers. But I mean, I would even
Yeah.
say the off the court stuff for the Lakers is more interesting.
yeah, it's more interesting because they don't even want Westbrook.
Yeah, no,
So,
I mean, I don't want that.
They don't want him.
Haven't the Cavs been pretty good?
The Cavs are
randomly?
the number two seed in the East.
It's weird.
But PJ, that's my point. Is the they've been really good, but
no one cares.
right, the James Harden stuff's way
Yeah.
more interesting
Yeah.
than the Cleveland Cavaliers being really
James
good.
Harden and Ben Simmons. Yeah,
Right.
I'm looking forward to. I hope Trae Young wins the 3-point contest. I think from what I looked at last night, he has some pretty steep competition. I'm gonna have to look up the participants again. But
I can honestly say I don't know any of the 4 dunk contest guys.
Jalen Green, I know John Moran is not in it. Sadly,
Man.
Obi Toppin,
Is Jalen Green in it?
Missing
yeah, the
something.
kid from Houston.
Okay, I know him.
He's in it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to him. I think
And the only
he's
reason I
gonna
know Obi
win.
Toppin is because the Knicks drafted him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Green will win it because I think he's gonna go out there and try to prove a point.
Who's
They've
the
been
other
bad
two?
this year. I will have to look up the other two.
I
Exactly.
got you.
Like
See-
it's been disinteresting this year.
It's not only that it's disinteresting, it's the fact that I think the dunk contest, although it was already kind of fading away, it died when Aaron Gordon got robbed twice in a row. Like,
I'll say the first time he didn't get
No,
robbed.
I would
He
say
got
I
robbed.
would say it
No.
started to die when the actual like good players stopped doing it.
Yeah.
They
Like
just- they were
Dwight
still-
and Nate Robinson.
They
that
just
was
like
cool.
they
That
just
was-
like
yeah,
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 they
it was
just
flying
they
off the
just
hinges
switched
with
to the guys who are the most athletic, which I get it. Like they're doing crazier dunks, but I think people would rather see like Kawhi and LeBron go head to head in a dunk contest and do lesser dunks than see guys who can just
That's
jump
one
higher.
thing
See that.
LeBron
Yeah.
robbed everybody of.
mhm.
You got to see Kobe in the dunk contest and MJ. You
The
never see
best
Bron.
the best dunkers in the world don't even play in the NBA.
Yeah, they don't.
So it's just like I think it's more about star power than
Oh, absolutely.
just having really good dunks. I think that's probably more so where it kind of lost its luster, but also at the same time,
But it's
yeah,
just like it put it over the
thievery.
top.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade kind of
Like,
stealing it away from
yeah.
him that second time.
We
Yeah.
might see a center win the 3-point contest this year. So it's a huge chance. Carthy Towns. We might see a center win.
You know what's funny
Like,
is
he can shoot.
I heard this
Yeah.
I heard this on the Levitard show. Do you know who's currently leading the league in field goal percentage from 3-point range?
Man, leading the league. It's not
At least like
Embiid.
as of a week ago.
No.
PJ Tucker.
I'm not shocked about
Just hitting
that
corner
from
threes.
the corner. Yeah, I'm not shocked
I
about
think it was
that.
like 46% or something like that.
I'm not
Made a living
shocked.
for a long time.
And
doing that.
they're the
I
number
mean,
one team in the East right now. They have
Yeah.
the number one. The East is weird.
No. Okay, this is what I love about the NBA is you can be the number 1 seed and you are like clearly not even like one of the 3 best teams in your own side of the comp or the
Yeah.
NBA. Like it's just
Like if they lost today, they'll go from 1, or they lost 2 games ago, they'll go from 1 to like 7.
But it's not,
It's
I'm, not,
that
I'm, not,
tight.
I'm not even talking about standings. I'm just talking about like when you get to the playoffs and you had to power rank teams that you thought were going to go to the finals from the East. Would you have the Heat in the top 3?
Yeah.
You really?
Really?
Yeah, they're the real deal. They did it a couple of years ago.
All right,
They went
let's
to the
clip
finals.
this. We are
Yeah.
13 minutes and 20 seconds into the
I
show here on.
I don't know,
the
after the
16th no,
Harden trade.
on the 16th, and Cam just said that he are quote the real deal.
Oh yeah, they are. I get
Well,
admit
what's
that,
the
though.
real deal mean?
They went to the finals a couple of years ago. Got bounced in the first round
I don't know
last
if I
year.
count the bubble as the finals, but okay.
I
I know
Don't
you
do
have
that.
to
Let's
because you're.
not.
I
do
know
that.
you
They're a
have to
solid
because you're a
team.
Lakers fan.
Come on.
No.
now.
The bubble brought out a lot of good players like Murray and Donovan Mitchell. Both had 50-point games. You remember that game. But the Heat, they're good. I mean, I think Kyle Lowry. I think Kyle Lowry is a good leader. Like he elevates a lot of teams. He does like dirty work and take charges that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And then Tyler Hero, that dude is legit. Like he's averaging
Yeah.
like 23 a game off the bench. So they're legit.
I'm
They're
happy
legit.
that Kyle Lowry had like in I don't know.
How did this happen, by the way?
What's
Oh,
what's
I
wrong
said
with it?
All-Star weekend.
Yeah, no, that's great.
No, I don't. I don't
Awesome.
want to do this. I love you,
Okay,
PJ, and I
don't-
know you want to get your.
okay,
I
no,
know
it's
you want to
fine.
get.
No, that's all right. Don't do that.
I know you want to get your basketball takes out here.
What was the other thing that I was going to say? Oh, I forget it now. It doesn't matter.
I know you want to get your basketball takes out here, but I don't know how we just turned into every show that's been on since 6 o'clock this morning.
I
Yeah,
don't
that
well,
is
I
true.
don't know. We're not talking about like the trades and the drama stuff. We're talking about like actual basketball. So
I
I
know,
feel like
but I
that's
said
not
we were
true.
going to talk about college football, and I want to talk about college football. But listen, this ain't a dictatorship.
Hey,
If you guys want to talk about the NBA and slushies, feel free.
I'm just happy it's
No,
All
we
Star.
ain't
It's
talking
like the
about
best time of the year. You got the trade deadline. That stuff happened. All the drama happens. Now it's All Star weekend. You get to see some guys rewind, and you get to see teams compete after the All Star weekend, like make playoff pushes. So I think it's cool. It's cool. I just hope the Lakers get it together.
Mm.
I will
just
say
hope
this:
so.
the one positive thing I'll say about the NBA All Star Weekend is like the competitions are cool, and I honestly think they kind of outweigh the game now. Like I think the 3-point contest and NBA dunk contest kind of outweighs the game. But I will say
The
this for the
skills competition is kind of fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
I will say this for the NBA though, like their game versus like the Pro Bowl is for like 3 quarters they'll kind of mess around,
Mm-hmm.
but then at the end
Yeah.
they kind of lock in, and it's like the Harlem Globetrotters on steroids.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. But that being said, we said we're going to talk about college football. Take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about college football. I promise. Until the end of the show, college football talk coming your way. I will not let Cam steer us back into James Harden conversations. I won't let it happen. I'll do my best. I will fight him.
Fear the beard.
He controls the board, so I don't know how much power I have here, but I will do my best to control Cam and his NBA talk. I'll do my best to keep PJ off of his NBA takes. I know he's got a lot of hot ones over there that he wants to get out. We're going to come back. We're talking college football next, right here on ESPN Radio. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko and Cam Ursery. Glad to have y'all hanging out with us here on this Wednesday afternoon. So we're going to talk college football. I want to talk college football here. So the biggest question this past year around college football was, what would the effects of name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal be? And we've seen a lot of them in more, I guess, singular storylines, i.e. the Jahmyr Gibbs transfers. And I mean, you can point a lot of them towards Alabama, but we can go to the Michigan State, where they completely flipped their roster in 1 year under Mel Tucker with the transfer portal. But we've been waiting to see what the actual landscape is going to look like going forward. And we haven't really seen it until now, where I think we're finally starting to see some clarity. And I think the big benchmark that we finally got past was National Signing Day, where we got past the December period, and then we got past the February signing day, which obviously there's still guys committing right now, but we got past the two big signing days, and we got to see, okay, Texas A&M went from, I think, signing 3 5-stars in Jimbo Fisher's time at Texas A&M to 7 in one class, right? And now we're starting to see a buzzword, and that is usually the thing that pops up when we have different changes, is 1 or 2 words that we really start sticking to these things. And the buzzword around name, image, and likeness is collectives. It's the new word. It's the new third-party metric that has come into name, image, and likeness, and really recruiting, and then, I guess, on-campus facilitation of monies toward players. Now, the news of the day today was the University of Georgia has now agreed with its players, even though it's not really a union. It's just the University of Georgia has basically allowed players and will sell with Fanatics players' names and numbers on uniforms. So now you can go to Fanatics and buy a Stetson Bennett uniform, where it used to have to be, you would have to buy a quote unquote customized uniform, and you'd have to put the number and the name on there, and players didn't see any of the money from it. Now you can go on there, and the full roster is available for you to purchase from Fanatics, and a percentage, and it hasn't been released what percentage of it is, a percentage of that is going to go to the players. But when I say collective, what we're just talking about is a kind of a two-party thing, where you have the school with an apparel company giving monies to the players, right? The third-party stuff is where this is getting really interesting, because you have a lot of agencies that saw what was happening with name, image, and likeness and completely converted themselves into facilitation for the players. If you look up at Tennessee, there's one called Spire that is controlling a lot of these transactions for Tennessee, and say that Hendon Hooker is probably going to be receiving around $1 million this year, not in cash money, but in total compensation. And a lot of the players up there, including women's tennis, they said on average a women's tennis player at Tennessee is receiving $32,000 to $35,000 a year just in compensations, whether it's monies or whether it's tires and brakes for their cars at Tennessee. So, nice. But it's being facilitated, right? Ohio State, they have made the most money for players since NIL took over. I think they're getting close to $3 million total. Majority of that going to football players, but it's a facilitation throughout the entire sports league, or sports department, I should say, right? Mm-hmm. But what I think is really interesting is you've seen it with Ben, our own Ben Troop, former Gator legend. He is working with something called the Gators Collective, which is a website where basically you subscribe to however much you can give monthly, and it gives you access to players, to exclusive content, to apparel from the quote-unquote Gators Collective. And this is a third-party company that has created this quote-unquote collective that is facilitating money to players. And what I find fascinating about this is there was a vacuum, and we knew it was going to have to be filled, because throughout football season, it was really kind of rudimentary stuff where it was, hey, this guy got a deal with a car dealership. Hey, this guy got this deal here. And it's just kind of one-offs where a guy was getting paid. Now this is like, you come here as a recruit, and this is already in place. Mm-hmm. We're going to put your name, your picture, your bio up there, and fans can subscribe to you to interact with you. Or at Tennessee, they kind of have these compensation deals with this outside company where it's, hey, if you commit to Tennessee, you're already going to have in place a endorsement deal. But outside of that, like I said, we have, if you need free tires for your car, done. We got it. You need brake jobs, oil changes, done. You need gas, done. You want pizza, done. It's just in total compensation. They're saying, okay, I could go over here and maybe figure out some deals and I can make some money, or I can go to Tennessee and it's already in place.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think, is the fascinating new reality of college football, where it's not, hey, we're handing over $1 million in cash. And I think that's kind of the thought every fan has in their mind is, you've heard Bagman all the time, is Nick Saban pulling up in a new Camaro. You pop the trunk, there's a duffel bag, and it's just got cash money in there. Hey, buddy, you want to commit to me? No, it's not that. It's so much more professional now. Is you get the full Alabama facility, which is better than most NFL facilities. I would say it's better than any NFL facility. If you've seen Alabama facilities, nuts. And on top of that, you're going to get endorsements, so you'll have money to spend, and anything you need going to be taken care of. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, fascinating, and I think incredible. Like, honestly, that it's progressing in this type of way and filling that vacuum that you were talking about. Uh, with that type of legislation that we've seen, and the rules passed and everything like that, I think that's the biggest progress we could have made, is having this turn from, like, yes, we know it's happening. Everyone talks about it in offices and whatnot, but the NCAA, every year it would come out, and NCAA is investigating this team, investigating that team, but we're all sitting back there and being like, we know every team is doing it. We know it's happening with almost every player. So the fact that now this is out in the open and can be done in a more complete, civil, and good way progressive way to help the player the most that they can is fantastic. And not just, again, like you said, not just for football either, but including these other sports and getting them what they need as well, which, if you remember, was one of the biggest talking points with this whole thing. Well, X player is going to make an insane amount of money and X player isn't going to. X sport is going to make this much money and X sport isn't going to. Well, now, thankfully, the campuses and the universities have been able to single out a way and find a way to make sure, everybody gets a little piece of the pie and can help themselves out and is put in the best spot. But the player who is blowing up or has the best marketability, of course, they're going to get the most and they're going to get the deals that they need to get. But the backup center for the basketball team is also going to be able to get what they need to. So I think that part of it is incredible.
And I think, Cam, when you look at it, it's these packages where it's not the school facilitating, it's more so the school allowing. And when I say allow, it's Georgia doesn't have to allow the players to use the Georgia logo. And for a lot of states, when this came out that the states got to decide on NIL, they thought they were being very, very progressive by putting these legislations out there. But in reality, a couple months later, the NCAA just said, bleep it. And it was whatever you wanted to do. And so the states like Florida and like Georgia that thought they were being progressive actually had encumbered themselves with some different restrictions that other states didn't have. Like North Carolina has been on this, you can use our logo on anything since the jump, whereas Georgia's just now coming around to it. I think Georgia's coming around to it in a direct response to LSU becoming the first school to really do the customized uniforms as well. So it's a lot of answers to this, but I think the packages are the interesting part, because if you're an 18-year-old or 17-year-old and you're being recruited by everyone, but I can lay out in front of you, again, the schools aren't supposed to do this, but if I'm an interested third party and I care about X university and I want you to come here, and I can come talk to you and say, hey, you come here and I have all of these logistics taken care of for you. I have a deal with an apartment complex and you'll get a 2-bedroom apartment. I have a deal with the local mattress firm. You'll get the new Serta, Tempur-Pedic, whatever you want mattress in there. I have a deal with the local, what's it called? The furniture store. So couches, TV, whatever you need, good to go in there. So I'm going to put all this out to you. You won't have to pay for gas, got your tires, got your brakes, and then we'll get work on some different sponsorship deals with you. It's hard to say no to that.
Yeah, it is. It's just, I look at things how times have changed. Like I saw the other day, the wide receiver from Ohio State, Jackson Smith
Njigba,
yeah. He got his own car, like his own truck, his own customized truck. He had to go in there, customize his own truck, get, rims and wheels, the interior, all that. And it's just cool. And then I think they finally got it right. It's obviously a new day and age, but I was looking at some old football highlights. You see, Reggie Bush and the Todd Gurley and Terrell Pryors and how they got in trouble back then for just small things as far as tattoos and signing a little autographed jerseys.
Yeah, Todd Gurley and
and
AJ
stuff
Green
like
would like
that.
to have a word.
Yeah, they'd like to have a word. I mean, I just look at those guys. I'm like, they
Greg
really.
Odom you're talking
Yeah,
about
at Ohio State.
You're talking about
yeah.
Ohio State. He's in sponsorship videos now with Ohio State basketball players because he's a grad assistant
See?
up there now. And he's like, man, would have been nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. And I look at things like that. They really paved the way for the kids today for them to get this opportunity and just to play a college sport and go to college, get a free education, then make some money on top of that. Because you are bringing in revenue for the school. I just think it's good for sports in general because now you're kind of like keeping those kids away, going away to like overseas into these other leagues like the G League, where they could just come to college and they could make the exact same amount of money or get a free education, make that money, get good exposure, have fun while you're in college, do college things. I think it's just good for all sports. So I'm
Okay.
glad they finally got it right.
All right, so that's the player's perspective. And then just a couple of quick things. Number one, I think like learning about these deals and these packages in place, you can kind of put to bed the fact that people think Jackson State dropped like a bag on Travis Hunter to go there. No, he went to an HBCU because he wanted to make a point.
Yeah.
He went to an HBCU because he wanted to play for Deion Sanders and he wanted to go to an HBCU. So I think we can kind of put that one to bed when you look at some of the deals these Miami players are getting and the Tennessee players are getting and now the Georgia players are getting. Maybe we can kind of put that one to rest. But to play it from the other side and for the people who have reservations about some of this and think it is the wild, wild west right now, right? This is a brand new frontier. There's no legislation right now. The NCAA is begging Congress to get federal legislation involved to have some sort of guide rails on this to where it can't just be do whatever you want. It's fine because that's basically what it is right now. I think it's probably fair to say you do need some guardrails when you're talking about the competitive balance of the sport.
Yep.
Because if you look at people say, why? In the NFL, those guys can go sign whatever kind of deals they want to. Right. But how do they get to the teams?
Mm-hmm.
It's a draft process.
Yeah.
Right. You're not the NFL isn't recruiting players to the teams by incentivizing them. They're drafting them. And through that, having to sign them to contracts, sure, but you own their rights. Right. So it's a completely different kind of setup in terms of the competitive balance. If you're the worst team in the league and you suck, you get a chance to take the best player or who you evaluate as the best player. That's the evaluation. Right now in college sports, it's what Nick Saban said it was going to be, the rich getting richer. I'm Alabama. I have the infrastructure. You think this is going to bring competitive balance? It ain't, because I can go out there and a kid who said, okay, I probably won't go to Alabama because another quarterback just went there a year ahead of me. He's another 5-star, and I'd like to play for at least 2-3 years and get my film out there. Now you're saying, Alabama's looking pretty nice. Even if I don't play, I can make $1 million just being at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of works. You ain't doing that at a Sunbelt school.
No.
I love Georgia Southern. Love Georgia Southern. The starting quarterback at Georgia Southern isn't going to be valued out at $1 million.
No,
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right? Could he get 6 figures? Sure. Absolutely. Sunbelt, school like Georgia Southern, school like App State, Louisiana, one of those schools, they can make some money. They ain't going to be 7 figures. Right? So I think you do probably need some sort of guide rails, but you've opened Pandora's box and it's going to be really hard to put that all back in now. But I do think and I'm obviously not smart enough, or I wouldn't be hosting a radio show, right? If I was smart enough, I'd be working in one of these 20,000 story office buildings, making these decisions and making a whole lot more money. But it's going to have to be something, because I don't want to say, I hesitate to say ruins, but you have completely tipped the scales away from balance at this point.
Yeah, no, very true. And I think that's been happening in a lot of different ventures and in a lot of different ways. And this is just one of them. So like you said, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, that there has to be some sort of parameters that's kind of put into place, and not, it's just been completely unleashed, and it's like forming its own kind of system and body right now. And yeah, completely agree that at some point the NCAA needs to come in and just kind of,
not the NCAA.
Somebody just needs to trim off the edges a little bit, right, and form this a little bit more, instead of it just being able to form itself.
Well, listen, I don't want to be Chicken Little on this, because the reality is there's only so many scholarships available for every FBS school. And so you're always going to get really good college football players distributed throughout the country. There's always going to be competitive teams. I just think people when they heard transfer portal and when they heard NIL, they thought, okay, maybe now we can start scraping away some of this power from Alabama, from Georgia, from Texas A&M, from the Clemsons of the world, and you can get to the point where you start having way more competitive leagues and more competitive college football playoffs, especially when we get to the expansion. But what you just saw this year is there's a huge gap right now. Michigan got to the college football playoff, beat the hell out of Ohio State, and you just saw the gap, right? And right now, the reality is that gap's only going to get bigger with the way name, image, likeness is working and the way the transfer portal is working. It's just going to keep getting bigger. Georgia's going to go out there and pick and choose who they want. The only team that's going to come over the top of them is Alabama. And that's just because Nick Saban's the best at doing everything, apparently. But when I look at college football, I think when you get to the Saturdays, it's still going to be college football, right? But if you're looking for competitive balance, which for all their faults and for all their greed, which I think is very fair to say, the NCAA, when you kind of look at the letter of the law, it was about competitive balance. The scholarship limits, for a long time, right, it was like the food limit where you couldn't give as much food as you wanted to, and they got rid of that one. But that was competitive balance because Southeast West Missouri State can't afford the same kind of meal offerings as Georgia, right? And so they were kind of trying to provide some sort of competitive balance when it came to recruiting and getting these guys on there. But now it's just however much money you got in that war chest, spend it and try to get those best players on your team. And I think right now, with the way it's currently set up, if you think this is going to change from seeing Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas A&M maybe now getting up there, it's not. Those are going to be the teams at the end.
Well, like the only way it could ever be brought, like especially in a system like this, in a situation like this, the only way it could be have a competitive balance is if those teams couldn't use it, right?
Yeah.
And that can't happen. Like that.
No.
That's not how this works.
Unless you put a salary cap, which is what Lane Kiffin was joking about, is there's kind of self-imposed salary caps now where you don't choose the salary cap. Your school and administration, what they're willing to offer and the support from boosters is your salary cap. And so when you look at that, Georgia and Alabama are the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Texas A&M, right? They're the Dodgers. They can throw around whatever money they want to, right? And so that right now, college football is not like any other American professional sport when you're talking about competitive balance. But college football right now is European soccer, where it's you have these kids coming up, and if they're the best and you think you want to get them into your academy, you go offer them a deal. There's no draft. There's no legislation on it. You can offer them as much money as you want to. There's no salary cap. And when you look at the English Premier League, for example, or you look at La Liga, right, there's a reason why it's the same 3-4 teams at the top every time. And it's because they can spend a whole lot more money than you can.
And you get these kids for about 3 years, and then you just get a new crop of them. So
correct. And if somebody else gets a kid that you wanted and you realize that you missed on them, you can say, hey, you don't have to sit out here anymore. You can just come here right now. I missed out on you. I'm Manchester United. We missed signing you the first time. We're not going to miss signing you the second time.
Yep.
And that's just the way it is right now. So it's going to be these top teams at the top. And that's why right now, what Kirby Smart, I know I keep saying it, but what he said in Jacksonville remains true. And it's the reason Dan Mullen doesn't have a job anymore. Is college football isn't about X's and O's and all that anymore. It's 90% just an arms race trying to get the best players. And there ain't a competitive balance anymore whatsoever. It is now European soccer in terms of that. And that ain't going to go away unless like we said, there are some sort of guidelines. And the players probably don't want that. They probably want the free market, want as much money as they're able to get. And again, it's all about priorities for them. If the players, and this is where we'd have to see a players union come about. If the players don't care about competitive balance and care more about, which I'm not going to fault anybody for in this life, care more about securing their bag over winning a national championship, that's how this is going to remain.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get mad at them.
Not even a little bit.
I will not get
not
mad.
even a little bit. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk some more college football next right here on ESPN Radio. I have an interesting college football question for you guys. And I know this is kind of just throwing it in your lap and asking you for an answer, but it's kind of what we do. So here we go. Can you remember a college football season when the best weapon, and I say weapon as an offensive threat, was a tight end? Because my first thought immediately goes to Kyle Pitts in 2020 with Florida, but just so happens there's a guy playing in Tuscaloosa by the name of Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
Who would go on to win the Heisman as a wide receiver.
Right.
And so I'm talking about a number one. If you did a fantasy draft in college football, he'd be your first offensive threat taken off the board.
I don't think so. I mean,
like you can go to George Kittle in 2015. He averaged like 95 yards a game as a tight end at Iowa, but that was the year Derrick Henry won the Heisman going over 2,000 yards.
And even then, like he was solid at Iowa, but like he wasn't the focal point. Like he wasn't the only thing. There weren't highlight tapes of him playing at Iowa on College Game Day on Saturdays, right? Like
right.
that just wasn't happening. So yeah, it'd be hard to. I mean, even you look back at like Gronk in his days in college, he was a solid football player, but you talk about the best offensive weapon during that time, heck no.
All right, so because the reason I ask,
I don't think so,
is I think you can make a legitimate case that a tight end is going to be the biggest weapon in college football next year, and it just so happens he plays for Georgia.
Right.
I think you can make a legitimate case Brock Bowers is the best weapon in college football in 2022. Now, he just had or is having shoulder surgery. He's going to miss spring practice, a labrum, which is a really super common football injury. He should be back for summer and fall camp. No, he will miss spring, but there's a couple of guys that I think you can put above him, and some people might, like Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think is that kind of wide receiver. He's clearly going to be the number one receiver off the board. Kayshon Boutte at LSU is that kind of guy, but I don't know if before you can make a legitimate argument that, because like Kyle Pitts, for as good as his season was, as good as his season was in 2020, he played in 7 or 8 games and had just over 700 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Where you had Devonta Smith going for like 1,800 yards as a receiver. A lot of quarterbacks are happy if they hit that. He was doing that in receiving yards, right? Brock Bowers last year as a true freshman had 800 yards through the air. Granted, he played in 14 games, but he averaged about 63 yards per game. Had some rushing touchdowns in there as well, but more so than that, he was the number one weapon on a national championship offense.
Yep.
So, I mean, disagree, agree? If you're doing a fantasy draft, is he the best weapon in college football next year?
I don't know a lot of guys that are even coming back next year, so I would say him.
I
can't think of anybody.
I think Jordan Addison, he won the Biletnikoff last year at Pitt.
I'll take Brock Bowers. I mean, respect the Pitt for having a good
at Texas.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. No,
that
I'm not. Texas lost to Kansas this year. They've lost my respect.
That wasn't Bijan's fault.
That's not all in him, though. I mean,
well, tote the ball a little bit better. Maybe you could use
weapon.
some clock management or something. I don't know, but I wouldn't put Bijan. As an offensive weapon, obviously, I mean, you're not counting a quarterback, so an offensive weapon.
What about Travion Henderson?
Oh, you know what?
He was filthy as a true freshman last year.
I know a weapon that's better than him. The kid from Ohio State.
Well, Jackson Smith and Jigba is who I said at the top.
Yeah. That's what I would say.
So you think he is a bigger threat as an offensive weapon than Brock Bowers is?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like that's part of it. Is it's
super
the utility.
Close.
It's the utility of Bowers that kind of puts me over the edge.
When you can line him up anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not like far and beyond. He's better. I just think he's a tad bit better.
But like honestly, PJ, you as like say they're both in the transfer portal, but you only can take one. Like they're both like, I'm not going to go there if that other guy goes there. And you're a college football coach. Who are you taking?
And you're thinking in Jigba or Bowers?
Yeah.
I'm probably taking Bowers, yeah. Because of all
Penn
the different
State's
things that he can do. Yeah.
Penn State can take one or the other. Which one do you hope they take?
No, it's fine. We can see that's what I'm not trying to devalue how good he is by any means, and that's what this sounds like. But he's incredible. But there's a ton of wide receivers that can do similar things that he can do. There aren't a lot of other tight ends that can do what Bowers can do. and I can line him up and yeah, have him block every now and then line him up on the end of the line or split him out wide, line him up in the backfield and throw a toss to him. Like, yeah, I could do all that with him. So absolutely, I'm taking him first.
No, I do find it interesting because it is the conversation, right? Like, who's more valuable, Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill to that offense?
Travis Kelce.
Okay, see, that's the tight end.
It's I think Travis Kelce is just a better player in general. I like Tyreek Hill. I don't.
Okay, who'd you rather have on your team, Kittle or Hop?
Dang.
Right?
It just depends on the quarterback.
But I think that's kind of the conversation you're having.
Yeah.
So when I say, listen, just with the offense and what they want to do, Jackson Smith and Jigba, put it down. He's going to have more receiving yards next year than Brock Bowers is going to have.
No, I mean that absolutely.
Like, the dude had like 360 or something in the damn Rose Bowl.
Right. Especially with how
Yeah,
they're going to use
I think
him,
that
too.
was the biggest thing. It just depends on the system. Like, if you're Alabama, I'm pretty sure you'll probably pick Jackson because they spread it out wide.
But
and,
how many points they scored? They had like 50.
Yeah, I think it was like 52,
crazy.
49
But
or
they'll
something like that.
they'll score 50 points on you throwing the ball for 500 yards,
Mhm.
whereas Georgia will put 50 on you running for 250 and throwing for 250.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I was saying. Like, it just depends on the system. Like Georgia, obviously, I would take Brock any day. Of the week.
I think you look at the different characteristics around these guys, and Smith and Jigba, to be fair to him, last year he was the third guy
Yep.
Yeah.
with 2 first-round picks at wide receiver, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave.
Mhm.
Right, he was the third guy, and he might have been the best out of the 3.
Well, that's why I didn't
Yeah.
fully believe
Yeah.
in him at first.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember like documented on this show being like, well, he's the slot guy. He's benefiting off them.
Well,
You saw him in
and
that
then
Rose
they
Bowl
leave in
by
the Rose
himself.
Bowl, and it's like,
Well,
okay,
but then also at the same time, it's just that Ohio State offense, right? And they recruit the hell out of wide receivers. Let me say that. But Marvin Harrison Jr., as soon as Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson take a game off, he's catching 3 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
And that's
So-
not even like Julian Fleming was like a 5-star, I think top
Mhm.
5-star wide receiver 2-3 years ago. He's just sitting on that bench waiting for an opportunity.
But
Like,
just
so
giving
you're right.
out like the superlatives, I think Bowers is just devastating.
Yeah.
That's just when he catches the football, like just catch those little screen passes and just running through Alabama defenders.
Right.
I know they were down big at that point in the SEC championship, but just running through defenders. We have a Ben Troop breakdown up on our YouTube channel of the pass he caught against UAB and outran safeties on like that had angles on him. You're not supposed to be able to do that as a tight end. And then just kind of the backbreaker, kind of what you were talking about is how versatile he can be. You line him up as an inline blocker in the national championship and kind of just do a little play action dump over past him when he walks into the end zone.
I think he has a chance to get drafted higher than Pitts. I know Pitts was drafted at 4, but
He's filthy.
yeah,
Like,
depending
he's-
on the guys
Yeah.
drafting in the top 3, he could be the number 1 or 2 pick.
Yeah, I mean,
if he keeps this
it's
up.
wild to say, but I think Georgia the next 2 years can build their offense around a tight end. And it's going to be super fun to watch. We got to take a quick break. We'll come back and get you ready for 3 and Out next right here on Second Down. All right, we'll put BJ Bennett down for the Jackson Smith and Jigba train.
Wow. I'm so surprised.
So you got two versus two. Cam, you say you take Jackson Smith and Jigba?
Yeah, I would. I can admit that.
I think he probably fits better inside of most offenses.
Oh, I mean,
I think equally, they're both talented equally. I'm just saying, I think as far as a better fit for most teams in the country, you would take Jackson. For Georgia, you would take Brock easily.
He's an insanely good, well-tooled wide receiver that can go up and get it, but can also play the possession game. I mean, yeah, every offense I think needs that. Especially when you talk about offenses using the spread like Ohio State does. But a more balanced, more pro style, even a spread offense, you put Brock Bowers in that and watch him do work. I mean,
listen, we got Lord of the Rings coming out September 2nd. You got Georgia, Oregon that first weekend too. You guys just put me.
Hold on, we have what?
Georgia, Oregon, first weekend of the season?
What was
the new Lord of the Rings series coming on Amazon.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, go ahead and put me in a hyperbaric chamber, put me to sleep until September, and that's fine. Got a big show coming up today on 3 and Out. Guys breaking down Todd McShay's latest mock draft, in which the Atlanta Falcons, the number 8 select Drake London, wide receiver out of USC. Please, God, no.
Okay.
A little bit later in the show, 3:30, catching up with Chris Vanini from The Athletic, breaking down just a wild storyline coming out of Conference USA. Full show coming up today on 3 and Out. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, and Kevin Thomas breaking it all down for you. Missed any portion of our show? Check it out on ESPNCoastal.com.